The courtroom air felt heavy enough to choke on, thick with whispers, judgment, and unspoken cruelty, when the pregnant woman suddenly swayed on her feet. One moment she was standing alone before the judge, pale hands resting on the curve of her belly, and the next her vision blurred, her knees buckled, and the world tilted into darkness. Gasps rippled through the room, but not everyone looked concerned. At the front row, a well-dressed woman with perfectly styled hair wore a small, confident smile, certain that the truth would finally bury the woman she believed had come to steal her life. That smile, however, had only minutes left to exist. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that truth always finds its way to the light, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us why compassion still matters. The woman on the floor was named Alina, and nothing about her life had been easy in the past year. She had once been invisible in the world of polished offices and powerful men, working quietly, loving deeply, trusting the wrong person. When she discovered she was pregnant, joy and fear collided inside her chest, but the fear won quickly when the men she loved denied everything. He was married, influential, and protected by money and silence. His mistress, a woman who had enjoyed luxury without consequence, sat confidently in court that day, convinced that she was the only one who mattered. Alina had been dragged through months of humiliation, whispered accusations, and sleepless nights, all while carrying a child who kicked gently as if reminding her to stay strong. The courtroom was not just a legal arena, it was the final battlefield of her dignity. As Alina lay unconscious, memories flooded the room even if no one spoke them aloud. The nights she cried alone in a small rented room. The way strangers looked at her swollen belly with judgment instead of kindness. The medical bills she barely managed to pay. She had nearly given up more than once, nearly accepted the offer to disappear quietly and take money in exchange for silence. But every time she felt her baby move, she knew she could not sell the truth. She had come to court not for revenge, not for wealth, but so her child would one day know they were not born from shame, but from courage. When Alina slowly regained consciousness, the judge ordered a brief pause. Water was brought, and the room fell into an uneasy silence. The mistress crossed her arms, still calm, still certain. She believed the DNA test would prove what she had told herself all along, that Alina was lying, that this was nothing more than a desperate attempt to cling to a powerful man. She had rehearsed her victory in her mind, imagined walking out of the courtroom with her head high, her status untouched. She did not notice how tightly the man beside her gripped his chair, or how his confident mask had begun to crack. The judge returned with a file that seemed heavier than paper should be. As the results were read aloud, the words sliced through the courtroom with terrifying clarity. The DNA test confirmed paternity beyond any doubt. The child Alina carried belonged to the men who had denied her, the men whose life was built on lies stacked neatly like polished marble. The mistress's smile faltered, then froze, then vanished entirely. Her face drained of color as the reality she had mocked now stood undeniable. The whispers returned, louder this time, sharper, no longer aimed at the pregnant woman, but at the ones who had tried to destroy her. Alina remained silent, tears slipping down her face not in triumph, but in release. The truth had finally spoken for her. The judge's words continued, firm and unyielding, outlining responsibility, consequences, and the legal obligations that could no longer be escaped. The powerful man's shoulders sagged as the walls he had built collapsed in public view. The mistress stared ahead, humiliated, realizing that the comfort she enjoyed had always rested on someone else's pain, but the true transformation in the room did not come from punishment or scandal. It came from the way people began to look at Alina differently. Where there had been suspicion, there was now respect. Where there had been cruelty, there was silence filled with regret. She was no longer the woman people whispered about. She was a mother who had endured the unendurable and still stood, fragile yet unbroken. In the weeks that followed, Alina's life did not magically become perfect. Healing takes time, and scars do not disappear overnight. But support arrived in unexpected ways. Legal protections were secured. Medical care became accessible. Strangers sent letters of encouragement. And for the first time since her pregnancy began, Alina allowed herself to imagine a future where her child would grow up knowing the power of truth. She learned that strength does not always roar, sometimes it survives quietly, heartbeat by heartbeat. As her due date approached, Alina would often sit by the window, one hand on her belly, feeling her baby move with certainty in life. She no longer felt alone. She had faced a courtroom full of doubt and walked out with her head held high, not because she won against others, but because she refused to lose herself. Her child would be born into a world that had tried to shame them, but also into a story of resilience that would one day inspire courage. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel anger at injustice or hope in humanity, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who believes in standing up for the truth, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach the people who need them most. And before this story ends, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts or simply write a few words of support for every woman who has ever been silenced. Your voice matters more than you know. In the end, the courtroom emptied, the whispers faded, and life moved forward, but one truth remained unshaken. No lie, no matter how powerful, can outrun the truth forever. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is stand alone, carry their truth with trembling hands, and trust that one day, the world will finally listen.